Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. I'm saying this hello to both my subscribers and those who haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you enjoy watching these videos and like them as well. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you all the phrases, idioms, and expressions that you need to use when you go to the airport or when you're at the airport. So today's video will be more of a English at the airport video. So let's get started. The first expression that you need to know when you're at the airport is to book a flight. To book a flight. To book a flight. When you book a flight, you get a flight and you, let's say, buy the tickets. You book the tickets and you get the tickets to be able to fly to your destination. So you book a flight. An example, don't you want to book a flight to New York? Don't you like to book a flight to New York? Which means don't you want to get a flight or buy a flight or purchase a flight or buy the tickets to New York? So don't you want to book the flight to New York? The second expression that you need a lot when you're at the airport is to miss a flight. To miss a flight. To miss a flight. When you miss a flight, you don't get to board the plane. You don't get to get on the plane. You don't get to fly on the plane. You don't get to use the ticket that you've booked or the flight that you've booked. So you lose the chance, the opportunity to get on the plane and fly to your destination. So you miss your flight. An example, I'm really sad I missed my flight to New York. I'm really sad I missed my flight to New York. I'm really sad I missed my flight to New York, which means I'm really sad. I lost the chance, the opportunity to board the plane, to get on my flight and, use the flight to New York. So I didn't get to fly to New York because I missed my flight to New York. The third expression that you're going to need is to catch a flight. 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 When you catch a flight, you get to use a flight, you get to board or get on a flight, or you get to fly to your destination, or you arrive at the airport in a timely manner and you get to get on the plane to fly to your destination. So that's the meaning of catching a flight. An example, you got to be in a hurry or else you won't catch your flight. You got to be in a hurry or else you won't catch your flight. You got to be in a hurry or else you won't catch your flight, which means you really need to be in a hurry. Otherwise, you won't be able to get on the plane. You won't be able to get to fly to your destination. You will miss your flight. So when you do not catch your flight, that means you've missed your flight. All right, now let's move on to the fourth expression, which is to board or get on a flight. To board or get on a flight. To board or get on a flight. When you board a flight or when you get on a flight, you go inside the plane and start flying to your destination. So to board or to get on a flight means to go inside the plane and to, let's say, start using your flight or to fly to your destination by getting on the plane or by going inside the plane. So the next time you're at the airport and you want to say that you want to go inside the plane, never say, I'm going to go inside the plane. You should say, I'm going to get on the plane. Or I want to board the plane. Actually, board is a more formal word than get on, but is very practical and common too. So you should say, I'm boarding my plane or I'm getting on my plane. An example, in 20 minutes, we'll be boarding the plane. In 20 minutes, we'll be boarding the plane. Or in 20 minutes, we'll be getting on the plane. In 20 minutes, we'll be getting on the plane. Which means in 20 minutes, we will go inside the plane. So in 20 minutes, we will be boarding the plane or getting on the plane. All right, the next expression is to onboard or get off a flight. To onboard or get off a flight. To onboard or get off a flight. When you onboard or get off a flight, you leave the plane and you get out of the plane and move towards the airport. Your flight has landed and you no longer want to be inside the plane, so you get out of the plane and move towards the airport. So you onboard or get off the flight. An example, when will she onboard her flight? Or when will she get off her flight? Which means when will she leave the plane and come to the airport and come inside the airport? So when will she onboard the flight or get off the flight? Alright, now let's move on to the next expression, which is a flight is cancelled. A flight is cancelled. A flight is cancelled. I think the expression itself clearly explains what it means. When a flight is cancelled, it is cancelled. You cannot use it. You will not be able to use your tickets. You will not be able to board or get on the plane, and you're not going to be able to use your flight. So when a flight is cancelled, it means it can no longer be used, and you have to book another flight, or the agency needs to book you another flight. So a flight is cancelled. An example: I couldn't fly to New York because my flight was cancelled. I couldn't fly to New York because my flight was cancelled. I couldn't fly to New York because my flight was cancelled. Alright, now let's move on to the next expression, which is a flight is delayed. A flight is delayed. A flight is delayed. You must have experienced this like a million times at the airport, that you got a flight at a certain time, you go to the airport, you arrive in a timely manner, you try to be as accurate as possible, and you try to get yourself to the airport with military precision and as accurately as possible to be able to catch your flight and to avoid missing the flight. But when you arrive at the airport, what happens is you realize that your flight is delayed, which means your flight is arriving, at a later time, or your flight is arriving later than the expected time, or your flight is arriving later than the expected time or the estimated time. So your flight is delayed. An example: man, I'm gonna be at the airport for another 2 hours because my flight is delayed. I'm gonna be at the airport for another 2 hours because my flight is delayed. I'm gonna be at the airport because my flight is delayed. Which means my flight will arrive 2 hours later than the expected time, the estimated time, and I'm gonna be waiting at the airport for another 2 hours to wait for my flight, to arrive, or to wait for the plane to land at the airport to be able to board it or get on it. So my flight is delayed. The next expression is your flight is diverted. Your flight is diverted. When a flight is diverted, it has to change its route and go somewhere else instead of the expected destination. So a flight is diverted. An example: I was supposed to go to New York, but the flight landed at the Los Angeles airport because it was diverted. Which means the flight was initially and primarily supposed to go to New York, but because of the change of plans, because of the, unexpected weather, or because of, terrible weather, it had to change its route and land at another airport. Land at the airport of Los Angeles. So my flight was diverted. Alright, now let's move on to the next expression, which is to get stranded at the airport. 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 This has happened like a million times at most airports in the world, that the passengers get stranded at the airport. So when passengers get stranded at the airport, what happens is their flight has either been cancelled or delayed, and they don't really know what they got to do at the airport, and they have to wait for their flight at the airport, or they have to wander around the airport doing nothing, just waiting for their flight to be rebooked, or to arrive, or to see what they got to do, or to see what the airport will do about their flight cancellation, or about their flight getting delayed. So to get stranded at the airport, I think it's the worst thing that can happen to a traveler while traveling, especially when you're so excited that you're, traveling somewhere, and you've made plans, for that trip of yours for, let's say, a couple of months beforehand, but your flight is canceled or delayed and you have to get stranded at the airport, and you don't really know what you got to do. You can neither get out of the airport nor board your plane or board the flight because your flight has been canceled or delayed and there's nothing available for you, and you got no choice but to, or you've been left with no choice but to, stay at the airport and wait for the airport officials or the people in charge of the airport and the agencies, airlines, to do something about your flight and to do something about your ticket. So you get stranded at the airport. An example, 20 flights got canceled at the airport of New York and hundreds of passengers got stranded at the airport. 200 flights got canceled at the airport of New York and hundreds of passengers got stranded at the airport. 200 flights got canceled at the airport and hundreds of passengers got stranded at the airport, which means as a result of the flights of an airport getting canceled all together at the same time, hundreds of passengers, thousands of passengers got stranded at the airport and didn't really know what to do and had to wander around the airport doing nothing and had to wait for the authorities of the airport or those in charge of the airport and their flights to do something about their tickets and their flights. All right, now let's move on to the next expression that you need to use when you're at the airport, which is to see someone off at the airport. To see someone off at the airport. To see someone off at the airport. When you see someone off at the airport, you go to the airport to say goodbye to someone. Let's say you got a friend flying somewhere, flying overseas, or leaving the country, leaving your city, and they're flying somewhere. So in order to say goodbye to them for the very last time, you go to the airport to see them off. So to see someone off at the airport. An example, don't you guys want to see me off at the airport? Don't you guys want to see me off at the airport? Which means, don't you guys want to come to the airport and say goodbye to me? I'm flying overseas. I will not be able to see you for quite a long period of time. So don't you guys want to see me off at the airport? One more example with this beautiful expression. It's really sad to see your loved ones off at the airport. It's really sad to see your loved ones off at the airport. It is really, really sad to see your loved ones off at the airport, which means it's really sad, heartbreaking to have to go to the airport to say goodbye to your loved ones leaving the country, flying abroad, flying overseas, or immigrating to other parts of the world. So to see someone off at the airport, such a beautiful expression, such a beautiful expression. Please use this expression the next time you want to go to the airport to say goodbye to a loved one of yours or one of your friends. Anyway, now let's move on to the next expression, which is a flight is bound for New York, London, Sydney, Melbourne. When a flight is bound for New York, London, Sydney, Melbourne, it is supposed to go to Sydney, New York, London, Melbourne. So when we say that a flight is bound for a certain place, it means the final destination of that flight is that specific place that we're mentioning, or the flight is supposed to fly to that specific place that we're mentioning. So a flight is bound for London, New York, Sydney, Melbourne, whatever. An example, we got a long flight ahead of us because our flight is bound for Sydney from London, which will take us around 30 hours to get there. So we got a long flight ahead of us because our flight is bound for Sydney from London, which means, we got a long flight and we got to be ready for it. It will take us around like 30 hours or something to be aboard, to get to Sydney. So we will have a pretty long flight ahead of us because our flight is bound for Sydney from London, and it'll be a 30-hour flight. We'll be 30 hours aboard, and we got to get ready for it. Alright guys, that's about it. That's about all. So in today's video, you learn some expressions that you can use when you're at the airport or when talking about flights. In the next video, I'm going to be talking more about planes, and I'm going to be teaching you all the idioms and expressions that you need to learn about planes, or when it comes to traveling somewhere by plane. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video if you enjoyed watching it, which you did, and leave a comment down below by using one of the expressions I taught you in the video. I'll be back soon with another much better and more useful video. Wait for it.